welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Geneva. Our church is part of a living tradition. That does mean a variety of things, at least to me. So what I like to say is that we are a church that's bound by a tradition of curiosity, as well as an affirmation for the great spiritual quest for truth and meaning, and by the promises that we choose to make to each other about the spiritual values we choose to uphold. We have no creed, no tests of faith, and what that means is your doubts and your questions are welcome here. Wherever you are on your journey, we invite you to be part of this congregation in which we draw wisdom from all the world's religions, balanced with the insights of modern science. Here we seek to build a diverse and beloved community, and it is our great hope to inspire each other, challenge each other, and accompany each other as together we act for peace, hope, love, and justice in our own lives and in our larger world. My mother was a saint. This is well known and thoroughly documented in the academic literature. And as you probably know, there have been several doctoral dissertations that focus on various aspects of Mom's life, her work, and her long-suffering temperament. At some point, Hollywood executives recognized her contributions and made her the subject of a very well-received made-for-TV movie, now showing occasionally on Lifetime, in which my mother successfully and skillfully handles me and my siblings at various points in our upbringing. Quality entertainment, I'm sure, and entirely fact-based, and thoroughly corroborated by all parties with any knowledge of the subject. Several exposés, which were then available in various supermarket papers, showcased my mother's attention to detail, her kindness, her patience, her skills and creativity with a sewing machine, her magnificent garden, and her supreme culinary skill. All were captured in loving, full-color and full-page photos for all the world to see and enjoy, and give due credit to this amazing and saintly and wonderful woman, my mother, whom I love very dearly. So it is with regret that today I must confess that the public persona the media has created around my mother is not quite accurate. I have a terrible truth, one that is almost too terrible to reveal. I fear that in doing so, I will besmirch the good name and good works of this most wonderful of women, but nevertheless, for the sake of truth and goodness, I must confess it to you now. It is this: not everything is made better by adding a can of cream of mushroom soup. I'm very sorry, Mom. I know, this is a terrible confession. And here in the Midwest, at least the Midwest of 50 years ago, a confession like that would have most likely been met with fire and pitchforks. Yeah, you laugh now, but you know it's true. Yet I take comfort in knowing that the many decades of Food Network TV, including Top Chef, Iron Chef, Good Eats, and more, through which we have all learned that there is a great deal more to dinner than casseroles and hot dishes, and for this truth we all give thanks, amen, and hallelujah. I was at the grocery store the other day looking for chicken stock. You can give my apologies to the memory of Anthony Bourdain, but there I was, transfixed in the soup aisle. I found myself holding a can of cream of mushroom soup and remembering all the meals my mom made with it. Chicken soup, stroganoff, pork chops, many, far, far too many casseroles and hot dishes. And I remember all of my groaning. I remember making vomit sounds. I remember pretending illness. I remember the impromptu dramas that would have made Shakespeare applaud with appreciation. And I stood there remembering all of this in the Woodman's grocery aisle, and even though I am totally clear that I was a brat of a kid, I am now convinced of this truth about that loving, kind, overwhelmed mother of mine. Mom was a great many, many wonderful things, but she was a terrible cook. It's true, with respect, but it is, right? I've reflected on this a lot over the years since her death. Mom went back to work about the time I hit high school, but like many women then and now, had chosen to be home for us kids throughout our childhood. I was only partly kidding about how much stuff my mom got done during the week. In my memory, the house was always spotless, the garden always full and overflowing. Our clothes, many of which she made by hand, were clean and put away. And every night we ate a home-cooked meal. Now that I am a parent, there is only one explanation that fits these facts floating up from the mists of my childhood, and that is the obvious and incontrovertible truth that my mother was in league with dark forces. I joke about it now, but it makes sense that Mom was a terrible cook. My father, as it turned out, had no taste buds. I mean, he was a pack-a-day smoker, as many folks were back in the 60s and 70s, so maybe it's not that odd. But even with that said, there was the fact that my father actually preferred his steaks cooked to the point of, quote, shoe leather. That was my mom's description. And I will testify that, for the record, this is, was, and always will be sacrilege, just so we're clear. Anyway, with Dad's preferences in mind, and given how picky my sibs and I were, Mom probably saw few rewards for anything approaching extraordinary effort in the kitchen. Totally understandable. This also had the side benefit of saving me and my sibs from ever having to eat lima beans and liver. So there's that. Maybe everything works out for a reason. Mom had a rule about cooking. To be worthy of praise, it had to be quick and easy. Quick and easy. If compliments were to be paid to the chef, this is how she'd respond. It was quick, or it was easy. Always one or the other. For years, that was the inside joke between my sibs and I. If the conversation ever turned towards food for any reason, one of us would say, it was quick. And we were then supposed to respond with, and easy. Like I said before, my mother was a saint. As with many things, clarity comes late in life. I never really understood my mom until it was too late to do much about it. She'd had a remarkably tough life. Her mother had died when she was only 10, and after her misanthropic and theologically self-loathing grandmother had scared off my grandfather, Mom had been raised in an environment that could only generously be called unkind. She'd run away several times and done all the things a beautiful young woman might do to annoy and provoke a socially and psychologically damaging oppressor. She liked boys. She was flirty. She got pregnant. This would have been the mid to late 50s, and honestly, I don't know, because I never met this eldest sibling of mine. All records have been lost, and all we know is that they were put up for adoption. I can only imagine how this would have shaped my mom's life, because back in the 50s, there were no choices. A good little Irish girl wouldn't have an abortion, even if there was one accessible or available. At that point, anyway, there weren't. My mom was just a kid. A choice might not have fixed anything for her, but she didn't have one anyway. No choices at all. And I know this changed her. Mom did finally escape. She married very young, had another child to a man who 60 years later now freely confesses that he was not ready then to be a father or a partner. Mom got a divorce. This would have been 1962. She had no job, no money, just my big brother. And I have photos of the two of them when he was tiny. My favorite is a black and white profile. Maybe some of you saw it. I posted it on Facebook. Some great shadow work. The lighting is amazing. And as you can see, their eyelashes are about as long as my arm. It's disgusting. I'm just going to say that I am and remain deeply disappointed to be the ugly brother. Anyway, my mom and dad finally met, and storybook happiness ensued. Family friends have reported often over the years about how, quote, sickeningly cute they were together. So that's not nothing. But my mom carried her scars. My brother's description of his childhood is different than mine, as are my sister's stories. Comparing them now, we see the cracks, the strain that life with few choices placed on Mom and how she responded. I can see where she chose to invest her time and her efforts and where she did not. And we, my brother and sister and I, we understand why it was so important to Mom to create this oasis of calm and order that she did, and why she cried into her pillows at night, and why our dinners, if simple, were always hot. I like to think that this is why there was so much cream of mushroom soup in our diet. And I now see my mom, like Atlas, holding up the weight of a world that ought to have been kinder to her, and how anything that was quick and easy was desperately, desperately welcomed. I wish Mom had had an easier life, but I am grateful for the space that she made for me. And that's my story. Today, I wonder about all of you listening to me, a child of Campbell's Soup. I wonder about the size and the weight of the world that you all carry around on your shoulders, the burdens that today is choosing to load you up with, and how it is you are choosing to bear that load. I wonder if there isn't a crutch you lean on to prop yourself up with. And honestly, I hope you have one. That hope, is in part why I do what I do. But for the sake of your friends, your family, and your digestive systems, I hope that support is not cream of mushroom soup. But I will suppose we all make do with what we have. Today, we are invited to feel the weight of the world, to acknowledge those that have struggled to keep that weight off of our shoulders, if only for a little while. And in the relative comfort of their shade, we are invited to look around and see the world differently, to imagine, at least for a moment, what might have been and what might yet be. And when we do that, I wonder if there is anything more poetic, anything more prophetic than a flower. Alive with color and scent, a flower is a testament, a living gift, a poem to creativity, to the promise of new life, to the promise that any life can be made new. Today, Mother's Day, we hold up the flower even as we are awash in dirt. And not the good, clean, freshly turned kind. We're pelted by the public expressions of hate, toward people of color, toward immigrants, towards trans kids, towards gays, towards women, towards civil rights, towards human rights, towards democracy and decency and common sense, the hate being leveled against Mother Earth herself, it is too much. It is a crushing weight. And I feel it too. Today, the rhetoric and the noise that is the election cycle are all increasing. And as the volume goes up and the noise tempts us to tune out and disconnect, I want you to remember the flower you hold. Just as spring seems to have finally sprung here in Chicagoland, there are always flowers everywhere to wonder at. Flowers to celebrate, flowers to remember by and be inspired by. But tomorrow, there will only be flowers if we plant them. Today, we are reminded that it has been almost 50 years since Roe versus Wade, a court decision handed down by 9 men that affirmed a woman's rights over her own body. A court case that decided that a woman ought to be able to have a say in how her own life evolves. That a woman can make choices about when or if she wants to start a family. 50 years ago, that right, the right to have an abortion, was not guaranteed. And in most of our country, it was impossible to get. Whether that right will stand 50 years from now is currently an open question. Now, I know most of you here support Roe versus Wade. More than 70% of Americans across the country agree with that decision. Whether or not the right to choose is in jeopardy, the value of the right to choose is not seriously in question, not here and not by us. So maybe you'll forgive me if I stop on this, because it's pretty obvious I'm preaching to the choir. What I want to end with today instead is something a bit more uncomfortable, and for that I apologize, but I think Mom would want me to be clear. In this time of stress and growing political stench and social distraction, I am concerned that we are about to miss our moment. Because we can rally and march all we want. We can write all the checks we want. We can post all the arguments and all the memes to social media that we want. This is how we have reacted in the past, and now that we are under pressure again, maybe it's not a surprise, this is where we are turning. Today, the fact we all need to face is this: it is too late for all of that. But that does not mean it is too late to act. The answer is quick and easy. And it is the same answer for Black Lives Matter, the same answer for immigrants' rights, the same answer for LGBTQIA+ rights, the same answer for women's rights as it is for voting rights, for climate change, and for the future of democracy. Same answer. We have to vote. We have to organize, mobilize, and get out the vote. This is the way. And what I want to leave you with is that one thing. Hold to it, cling to it, like you cling to the flower currently in your hand. There will be more about how to engage in coming weeks, and we have some really great people in the room with us today that can help us understand some of that. Yeah, I'm looking right at you, Gene. I strongly encourage you to explore those options as they become available, because voting is how we get to change things It's not perfect. Our candidates are not always ideal, but voting is how we make choices, how we create space for choice, and how we make our choices matter. Voting is how we take up the work of our youth, the activism of our parents and grandparents, and today, voting is how we get to save the future of democracy here at home and also abroad in the world. We, all of us everywhere, we have to vote. Fact is, no one is coming to fix things for us. Our mothers got us to now, and now it is up to us to take those next steps. Call it our no cream of mushroom soup required Mother's Day gift to all those who came before and to all those who will come after. In us, our mothers have planted their flowers of hope, of peace, and of progress. Honoring their work is how we maintain the garden of tomorrow. But we need to work now. And we can. And maybe that is the best news today. We can do this. We can do it for them, for us. Flowers for all the children everywhere. And so, to all of you and to all of our mothers and to the future they have called us to bring into the world, let us say, thanks, Mom. We got this one. Happy Mother's Day. And as we prepare to leave this place, continue your journey in love. Care for one another and care for this, our earth. Do justice and make peace. And as you go, know that whatever taste or touch you've had in this time, it may be virtual place of hope, joy, love, peace. That goes with you out into the world. We are different for having spent this time together. So remember, live boldly and with thanksgiving.